joined with Markus Geissler from Cosumnes College and River College in the Sacramento area. And our DSN, you were told to identify the DSN, so this is my DSN here from the East Bay, Sandy Jones, Boston College. So we're here to give you a sort of a recap of some work that's been going on for a number of years on the ICT or IT model curriculum that was mentioned in the keynote earlier today as well. So I just wanted to give a quick history, recap, and then I'm going to turn it over to Markus, who will talk to you about the process. This is an official, sanctioned process that we've gone through that. Just before Christmas, we got the official okay that the courses were approved, and I'm not sure if they're showing up on the website yet.
The courses are, the model curriculum is still lagging a little bit.
Okay.
Later on today.
Yeah. And then in order to get a degree approved at the community college system, especially in this area, which is a CTE area, there's a lot of additional requirements, including getting business and industry to buy into your program. So Sandy's going to talk about a rather extensive process we use to confirm that the model curriculum that we proposed is accurate and meets the needs of business. She'll talk about that. All right. So are we recording now, or is somebody doing that? Or
Elaine.
Elaine was. Oh. Do you have the recorder on already? Oh, you did. Okay. Great. So we know from listening earlier to James that ICT is and employment is up, particularly here in California, and that there's an issue with supply and demand with the California community colleges. So from the work NPIC did years ago, we know that in all of our colleges there are a whole assortment of approaches that schools have used to meet the need. In departments, there's 295 different departments with 177 different names, 43,000 different department articulation possibilities with all the schools. It's a bit of a quagmire. Next page. Oh, okay. Degrees, 624 different associate level degrees in the 100+ colleges that are here, 438 unique degree titles, 195,000 different degree articulation possibilities. This is what we've offered to industry. Next page. Okay. Again, certificates, 1,500 certificates, 1.1 million different certificate articulation possibilities. So it's a non-standard environment. It kind of devalues everything we're doing locally. Employers don't understand all these possibilities and gyrations. They don't understand what the credentials that they have and what they know and what they can do. So MPIC, along with the Centers of Excellence, did a survey. Over 600 employers. 71% agree that their business would appreciate and be much more willing to entertain hiring students with ICT-related credentials within California community colleges if there was a consistent, system-wide, validated foundation of knowledge and skills for ICT education. So we know what our task was at hand. And this is something that did not escape our educational institutions, both the community college and also CSUs. And so we were tasked maybe 3 years ago. We'll go back to the previous slide. I'm going to turn it over to Markus. We were tasked to get together and to try to develop a transfer model curriculum in ICT, because employers were also saying that 70% of the jobs, or maybe closer to 80% of the jobs, required a bachelor's degree as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Markus.
That was the beginning of the battle.
Yeah.
We've been at this for about 1.5 years, and I had the privilege of taking over as the chair of the Information Systems faculty discipline group from Nancy Jones, who several of you may know, not Sandy, but Nancy Jones, who joined the dark side a couple of years ago. And she had been chair of the FDRG and said, well, we need to make sure we finish this to be able to put these standards together. So the FDRG consisted of faculty from the CCCs as well as from the CSUs. And our goal was that transfer model curriculum. But relatively early, we ran into this identity crisis, right? Who are we? And you've heard a little bit about this. So we have an issue that in computer science, we long affiliated ourselves with engineering. And with that came all the requirements of ABET, which is the accrediting agency for schools of engineering. And sadly, the process started just before ABET started putting out some more appropriate requirements that were allowing colleges to reduce to an appropriate level. I believe the appropriate is the technical term that they're using, the amount of math that's taught, the amount of physics that's taught. And for those of you who are in computer science, you know that many colleges have had issues with implementing the computer science TMC, largely because of the math and the physics requirements that are there. And I've seen a lot of nodding here, so I don't know how they're going to solve that one. The actual equivalent of information systems, FDRG, the computer science FDRG, from what I understand, does not have a chair right now. So if any of you are interested in potentially stepping up for that, talk to me. I'll put you in touch with the correct folks at the Academic Senate, because there's work that needs to be done there as well. So that's the engineering side. But then I'm personally not a computer scientist. I'm an MIS guy, right? So I went through business MIS, and that's, you know, people first of all ask me what's MIS, and I said, well, it's kind of the computer science of business. But there too, we had ASCSB requirements. So the challenge has been in IT or ICT, and we've been going back on that, back and forth on that term for a while. But how do you build another discipline, right? How do you create from the two existing pieces that are there that are obviously not meeting the needs of our employers, because to an extent they're not meeting the needs of many of our students. But how do you build that, especially within a historically embedded structure like we have in California, where everybody's been very happy on the computer science side and the MIS side. Nobody really wants to change, and you're trying to build a discipline for which there initially appears to be no hope. Because where is this discipline going to be put within the academic structure? And not only do we not talk to one another, we sometimes even have turf wars. I remember when I was a student at Sac State, so who got to teach, you know, C at the time? And so the computer science insisted on teaching C, and then business was still teaching COBOL, and they tried to move, but okay, we'll let you do Visual Basic, but don't you dare touch, you know. So there's been that. Who does that help? And so those have been some of the historical issues that we've been fighting with. And by the way, if you've ever had a chance to go on a sabbatical, it opens your mind. So I had a chance to go to Eastern Europe for a semester to study mobile technology a few years ago. And one of the places I went to, and I've gone back regularly because I've made some good friends, is the country of Estonia. Anybody know where Estonia is? Okay, small country on the Baltic. It's a former Soviet republic. And one of my dear friends is a faculty member in the chair in the Department of Information Systems, which is part of the School of Information Technology, which goes all the way from the traditional computer science to the business information systems. And if they need a degree that industry needs, they just pick the pieces from the different places, put them together, and it's that easy. Well, here's where history is their friend, because they had the chance to start from scratch 20 years ago after the Soviet Union fell apart. And here history is our enemy, because we haven't had the need, or have it. The answer is I think we have. So, moving on to the next slide, please. It's limiting our progress. And when we as the FDRG sat down and said, well, we can just say we can build information systems to be. We'll make it look like MIS, which basically looks like business. We'll add that maybe a couple of courses. Take the risk that when it comes to the final committee of CID, it's going to be turned down anyway because it is so close to business. Or can we do something different? And that's where the ICT model curriculum came into play. We didn't want to teach 2 physics courses. While it's nice to know physics, our students don't need it for IT skills when they graduate. We're not trying to teach math majors. I went to 6C, the Special Interest Group for Computer Science Educators of the ACM, to their conference last year. Sat next to a colleague of ours who teaches at Yale. And we were talking over lunch, and I asked her what kind of qualifications, what kind of a math. She says, well, at Yale, the students need to take one calculus class and one physics class if they're going to be computer science. I said, wow, if Yale can get away with it, what's stopping CSU? And part of it was the ABET requirements, which, again, luckily they've been loosened. That's why it's really important. Again, if there's any of you who are here who would like to take on that lead in computer science, I believe there is some tweaking that should be done, actually, with the TMC in computer science to make that more achievable for many of our colleges. But we still got into some of those unit issues, and so we need to have something else. Transfer was the goal. So one of the issues with the historical division is that CSU basically said, well, we can't create a transfer model curriculum because we can't promise something that we can't keep. There are not enough places for students to transfer. And sadly, they're right. So here now we have a cart before horse problem, right? So what do? Well, do we go with one system, do we go with another, do we bridge? And so there were some tough decisions that were made, and actually we still decided to bridge. And what we wanted to end up with were graduates who possess the right amount of knowledge and practical hands-on experience to take care of both an organization's IT infrastructure and of the people who use it. And that's where many of our graduates end up. Some of those entry-level jobs in the networking areas, in the database areas, to an extent in the business analyst areas. So what to do? We looked at some of the existing frameworks that are out there. Actually 2 years ago, I was at this conference as well. And I received a phone call as I was waiting for the megabus back to Sacramento. And it was one of the people from the ACM who said, hey, we understand you've got some cloud background. We need somebody at the table to build an IT model curriculum for 2-year colleges. If you're willing to come and work with us, I said, sure. Actually, they're presenting here as well, the CCECC of the ACM. There's some presentation going on right now. There's another one later on. Make sure you go see. They do some great work. So as part of that, I was able to pull some of those skills that are going to be needed and translate them along with my colleagues in the FDRG to what's hopefully going to be, not going to be, formalized within the next couple of months, a model curriculum for California community colleges, and hopefully from there on for other places as well. We also looked at NPIC work, of course, that's very important. And I've been working closely with my Deputy Secretary Navigator, Steve Linthicum, as well as some of the other folks who are part of the infrastructure, which, by the way, with the words didn't get to know your DSM, absolutely do, because that's how we're hoping to be able to propagate this model curriculum throughout the state. So, TMC. We tried. We know there's bachelor's degrees that need to be created. It was not to be done. Very interesting, many of the questions that were asked, especially by the CSU, was, well, don't you want to raise the level of math? Because if you've had a chance to look at the model curriculum, the math that's required is actually relatively low. And well, how can these people succeed in an IT field without that much math? And the answer is, well, they can. But again, that paradigm shift, right? We heard a little bit of that for Chicago. We also looked at pathways. So how do we integrate, now that there's also an ICT high school initiative, how do we integrate that effort as well and give students that pathway into a program? So once again, these wonderful folks, and you'll see Richard as one of those members. Notice we've got good CSU representation here as well. We said, okay, how can we put something like this together? And we've been fighting back and forth with the structure of CID basically for the last year and a half. and basically said, okay, what kind of compromise can we come to? And that's basic. That's what the IT model curriculum is. It's a compromise that hopefully, and it's designed to be quote unquote upgraded to a TMC, but we have to wait until CSU gets there. And I'm very, very happy to report that, for example, CSU Northridge is now hiring for IT professors. So there is additional movement. We've worked with Cal Poly Pomona, we've worked with CSU Monterey Bay, East Bay to an extent. So there is movement. So hopefully maybe we've provided the horse and now there'll be a cart. We know it's coming. The privates have been doing it for quite some time. If you looked at Divide, if you looked at Phoenix, if you looked at National, they've been only too happy to serve this market. So hopefully CSU is going to jump on this. So have any of you who's been to the CID website? Okay, so most of you have. It was too funny, I was in a counselor's meeting about 4 weeks ago, and one of the, at my college, one of the longest, I love her, counselor's been around, I don't know, 20, 25 years, and she asked in the meeting, what's CID? Where's the CID? Because we should all know that this is a great tool for us to transfer knowledge from one place to another, and some of us don't like that word, but to standardize the curriculum. This is the place where I would recommend that you go. And by the way, I'll talk more about the hands-on piece in the second session that follows this month immediately afterwards, about where to find the descriptors and how to actually take some of those descriptors, turn them into syllabi, how to build from the model curriculum actual degree programs. So that'll be the hands-on piece. That'll be part 2 of this. So a long path that I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on, except this is not good. This is where the transfer stuff stopped, and this is where we said, okay, let's turn it into a model curriculum. By the way, other disciplines that had similar issues that ended up with model curriculums, engineering and nursing. And somebody might argue that there's shortage in some of those fields as well, and they ran into very, very similar issues as we did. Huh. Interesting. So the TMC started as this, and continued on with some electives, and had some different kinds of math courses. This is one of the first drafts, so this is where we started. And then we said, well, if it can't be a TMC, then we need to make some changes. So we still are going to have a programming course. No doubt about it. We heard that earlier today. People need to be able to code. By the way, who sent their students to code.org last semester? That's way too few of us. Okay? That's kind of a fun one. You'd be surprised how much good feedback. I made it an extra code assignment. Hey, check this out. 15 extra points, not much at all, out of 1,200, just a percent. Just, hey, that was kind of cool. I didn't know programming was like that. Okay, check it out if you haven't. The website's up for you. We did hear in some feedback that the TMC by itself would not be good enough for transfer as it was, especially with what's going to be offered. We did run into the ICT versus IT term, and to be very frank, we made the change to IT at the very, very last minute. For the very good reason that actually one of the FDRG members, actually Paul from CSU LA, who was one of our more interesting FDRG members, it says, if you look at the entire field, IT is only part of it, because ICT is more overarching. And talking with some folks last night even, there's that control, the building controls and those kinds of things. Yeah, it's part of ICT as well. So we decided to go to IT after all. But why not the model curriculum? So here is what it pretty well ended up with, except we added a few like this. But notice as it went through some of the gyrations, there is now, and by the way, I'm very happy to say where it says draft here, these are no longer drafts. This right here is an A+ course. This right here is the standard survey course in Introduction to Information Systems, Business Computer Information Systems. Here's a still programming course. Notice if somebody starts computer science and then changes their mind, industry said we need some kind of a programming course. That's plenty good. And networking. Here's your N+ certification. Notice certifications came up several times this morning during the keynote. Certification opportunity, certification opportunity. Let's see here, Server Plus, certification opportunity. Introduction to Security Plus certification opportunity. Those were things that we learned along the way that would be very important. Notice the math was added a little bit as well. Okay, so basically any class beyond your intermediate output, we thought was good enough. We did look at the competencies model for the Department of Labor, and you've seen this before, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time. But very interestingly, we looked at the model curriculum and remapped, right? So the skills that are required of folks to be able to do well in here at a very elementary level, but we map. And so those are the skills that industry is looking for. Those are the skills that the model curriculum provides to a great extent. We did get the collaboration with the CCECC of the ACM, that blessing, this is a kicker. So what they put out, not just with us. So we feel like we're naturally, in that regard, validated with what we've done as well. Moving on to the next slide. And we try to keep the pathways in there. So at this point in time, I'm going to pass it on to Sandy, and she will talk about some of the ways that she has, within specifically the Greater Bay Area, been able to validate some of the model curriculum through some of her work.
Great. So I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. We wanted to showcase how to engage businesses to build accountability and a great IT workforce with the programs that you are offering at your colleges. So we're going to show you how to validate this model. So that's where you're going to look at those handouts. If you didn't get one, I can surely email it to you. So if you just give me your email address on the way out, I'll do that right away. Okay? Alrighty. So the most important element to the future success of our students is making sure that our programs are viable. And what's your experience with your business advisories? So raise a hand, shout outs. Okay. What college are you from? Santa Barbara. Okay, great.
I can vouch for what she's saying. That your colleagues do the same thing. Advisory committees tend to be really, really great. The biggest problem with advisory committees is we tend to talk to them instead of listening to them. And having these tools that the FDRD is putting together might be one way to get information to the advisors first before they come see us, so that they actually know what areas we need help with.
All right. Sure.
She was from Santa Barbara. I don't know where that town is from, but the problem you have is when you get into rural areas. I'm from West Coast College, Lemoore, which is in the middle of the state, in the center of the state. Getting a really sound advisory committee together is really tough. And we almost have to spoon feed them what we want them to say yes to. Kind of back stamping the entire issue that we want to get out there.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm also from a rural college. I'm from Columbia College. Our problem is if we can get good advisory people, but you end up killing the good horses, because your business advisory, your computer department advisory, your child development advisory, they all end up being the same small group of people, and so we end up having to combine some of them sometimes, so we don't have them come into so many meetings to where they don't want to be on our advisory. So rural areas are very, very difficult to, not only with the technologies and being able to offer all of the courses required for a model curriculum, because they just can't make, and if they can't make, then you don't want to offer it and then cancel every time. But on the other hand, you've got to be real delicate with your advisory so you don't overuse them.
Okay, and I'm going to segue into that a bit later, but I wanted to, at this time, showcase our BSN so you get to meet them, and many of them are here. So I want to introduce Dennis Moll.
Hi everyone, I'm from Central Valley, and I'm David, and I've actually been to IDA's advisory and for that time.
Okay, we have Olivia Davalos.
From West Bay Area.
Myron Curtis.
I'm from far North California, further north than San Francisco.
This is rural also. We have Alan Braggins. Dan Watanabe.
I'm from Los Angeles region, so I'm representing 18 colleges.
Paula Hodge. So in the ICT digital media sector, there's 10 of us. So leverage us, use us, okay? And if one can't, we always help each other. We have weekly team calls, and that's where we brainstorm and we help each other, okay? So I can understand the sentiment where you have, you know, one person always coming to your meetings. I have my IBM guy. He says, another one? You got 15? I said, I have 15 colleges. I'll feed you, lunch, dinner, whatever you want. You know, bring your wife.
So Sandy didn't say that she also has funding that helped us put on our advisory committee meetings, you know, and really get good attendance for that requirement to get our program approved. So
there is funding available, and also there is an added advantage. We just got another $100,000 last week, so there's funding available. In other words, you know, we want to be able to assist you. Alan.
What we're trying to do as regional session navigators is to possibly link advisory groups to local colleges, not offering or whatever, so that we don't burn out just few people that we have when we can work on local college advisory groups. So use that.
Here, I would say, she has created
Rose is great. She'll have early morning breakfast meetings with the chamber. And she's really put together a great business information worker program as well. That was recently endorsed.
One of the things that we do in Los Angeles region is I have about 45 professional experts that we can mix and match to all the different colleges depending on what they need. And we'll stage an advisory meeting. We'll actually bring in a moderator, get the information first so that the advisors actually talk. The big complaint that we were all getting in LA is that you have these great advisory meetings, and then the faculty would talk for 2 hours and 30 minutes, and the advisors, you have 20 advisors in there talk for half an hour. So we now stage the meetings and kind of go in there and say, here's what you said you needed, here's what our advisors think, and then we organize the questions. So we can do that too.
That's a great concept. Thanks, John. Great. So the typical advisory board meeting meets 1 or 2 times a year, right? Is that true for most of you? So Ann Behaler, she was very instrumental in putting together this KSA knowledge base, and she told me this morning, it's just a rubber stamp. Try to get away from that advisory board. You know, we have modeled after her business model at Collin College. So it's called the Business and Industry Leadership Team, BILT. Sounds like a mouthful. Anything more than 2 words, right? It's a mouthful, but it really works, okay? Because they feel part of the team. And the suggested engaged business and industry model might be regional businesses and industries getting together across multiple colleges, and that's what we're trying to do here in the Bay Area. Between Olivia and I, we have 28 colleges. Can you imagine 28 advisories twice a year? So 2015 is a new day, new year, and we're going to regionalize. We want to meet quarterly, not just 1 or 2 times a year, but actually face-to-face and virtual meetings as well. So my folks, if my HP person can't come down from Roseville, she can join us, you know, via CCC Confer. We want to also bring the right people to the council, high-level technical executives, first-line managers, technicians, and also HR representatives, as long as they're not the sole representatives for the company. So you have to determine which businesses, industries, agencies, your nonprofits, and universities should be represented, the distribution and size type, and don't just limit it to large companies. So recently we hosted a advisory meeting here at City College. So we had small business, we had WIBs, we had big companies, large companies as well. So there was a good mix in the room that blessed their programs. So we modified the DACM process and developed by the Convergence Technology Center down in Collin College, and it begins with a perform a list of potential skills that you have. And we feel that when you bring that to the table and then staff is involved as well, that's a good mix. So we regionalize the business and opportunity to add or subtract. Some might not use some of the ideas that's listed. You can add and modify it. That's what's so great about it. And then it gives ownership to the program. You might want to also update it for emerging technologies, because in the IT sector it changes so rapidly. And so we're going to go over the handout. The white handout, for those of you who received it, that's a template for you. Use it, copy it. Okay, so when you have your business and industry leadership team meetings, give it to your advisory folks and let them tell you what's required, okay, in their business. In order for students to get a job, what do they need to have? What skill levels? And also on page 2, there's certifications as well that, we just recently updated it as well. Okay, KSAs is so important. What's the knowledge, skills, and abilities that the students really need to know? How's your built? How do they rank it? In what order? So it's a process. It's not like a 5-minute survey they just complete and hand out. We actually run this process. It's typically 6 hours throughout the day. We break it up.
Provide it to them ahead of time. A week or two before the meeting, look at this, fill it out, bring it with you to the meeting.
So the Convergence Center, we also have a job skills validation process, and that's so important to validate their skill sets to what your college is going to be offering, or they adjust and modify the existing curriculum. So the KSA spreadsheet that you see in front of you, again, that was developed by this National Convergence Technology Center, and it schedules the job skills that's required, explaining the process, how it'll work, their rankings from 1 to 4, what's important versus least important. And so we hosted 2 meetings last year, a marketplace where 72 faculty and industry folks came together at Ohlone College in Newark, and then we also had our business and industry leadership team meeting at Diablo Valley College, but also with Ohlone, because they were, adamant about getting their information technologies programs together. So we had a great mix of folks that came to these meetings, again, not just large businesses, but also WIBs, also nonprofits that came in and chimed in on this and took this survey.
The purple sheet. Yeah, so we actually had 2 meetings. We have over 20 representatives in industry who've weighed in on these skills, and you can see the scores on the purple sheet accumulated from the 2 meetings. So they were pretty consistent for both meetings, and helped to verify. So any score over 3 is an important skill for that they want in their employees. And the results map to our curriculum that we had put together. And we showed them, and actually had to have, at the DVC meeting, had to have approval of the IT AS degree for transfer. So I think we're on that. Okay, thanks, Sandy. And it's not a small endeavor. So some of you probably know you've had degree programs that you've developed for CTE programs. There is a program and course approval handbook. Does anybody know how many pages this is? Anybody? Yeah. Over 250-page handout, our handbook on what to do. So, but there's a section, Appendix C, which goes down to like 30 pages, where you can get the gist of what you need for approval at your college. And we're still 100 and how many? 100? How many colleges? 112 community colleges in the state, and each one has to go through this process independently and directly with the Chancellor's office. And you'll see in that Appendix C, there's sections in red that are for CTE programs, of which IT is a CTE program that would have to meet those requirements. And there's quite a significant number of additional things you have to do for a CTE program that's different from a regular transfer program. So, you know, it's a 1.5 year long process to get approved. So I started earlier at Ohlone College than probably should have. Certainly before the model curriculum was approved. That only just happened this last month, where the descriptors were approved officially and they're no longer drafts. But I went ahead and wrote up the proposal, and there's a template, and I can share my template with you that has many of the things you'll need for your school to develop the same thing. So we went with an Associate of Science, and that's another key factor. Some of the schools in the state have AA degrees in IT. Those are no longer really appropriate. They need to be AS degrees because they've recognized that IT is part of STEM. So any STEM program with a T in STEM needs to be an Associate of Science degree. So I went ahead and wrote up the program goals. I've got the labor market statistics that are necessary. MPIC and the Centers for Excellence are a great resource for that. I think your DSNs will help you with your regional area as well to collect that data. You'll need to include that in your template, in your application to get this approved as well. And what the second factor that had to be done with CTE programs, they had to be approved by your advisory committee. So they had to give their stamp of approval, that presentation. This is part of that same, we're always talking to them and telling them what we're doing, but it's required. You still need to get that stamp of approval. And not only through your business advisory committee meeting, but you also have to go to your regional consortium, your deans. For us, it's the Bay Area consortium we had to go to get approval there as well. So you have to get on their agenda, get on their minutes, and get approval for them as well. Yeah.
My understanding was that it was the TMC, it was the AST program. We didn't have to go through all this. All we had to do was be in contact with from CSU. So
yeah, that's for the transfer model curriculum, which we didn't qualify for that. Yeah, there is no transfer model curriculum.
On IT, I thought I saw something.
It's a model curriculum is the way it's been designated. That's what Markus talked about. We're still fighting that battle. There's no clear place for students to transfer, right, to the CSUs. I mean, this is my 31st year of teaching. You know, I started as a computer teacher, and years ago, and I've been interested in this connection with CSUs because we know that you need more education. You have to transfer. If you're going to do very well, you probably need to get a bachelor's degree. And I can remember tech prep and 2+2 and articulation agreements always kind of stopping at that 2+2 plus that last 2. You know, the CSU never really meeting that requirement. So we still have to fight that battle. Yeah, questions?
You know, even though it's a small number, it would be wonderful if as the next step we could get to the point where we could genuinely have a transfer model curriculum, even if it is to those 5 schools. But they are all over the place in their requirements, as we all know, as many of us know.
Well, one of them is also outside of their regular for credit program, I think, right? That's Channel Islands has it. They have a BS. They've had it for about 10 years.
Yeah,
but it's, yeah.
That's my problem, that's my transfer.
Right. I mean, yeah.
So I'm looking at them constantly and turning my school student elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, they're all over the place, and it'd be wonderful if 5 of those schools would agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just need a handful. That's absolutely right.
We figured we had to do something, right? And the model curriculum is a start. And trust me, the transfer is still the goal. As I sent to the FDRG. So I'm hoping that in the not-too-distant future we can get back together again and turn this into. And I don't know what's the critical mass. We're aware of the 5. Northwich wasn't part of that, but I'm counting 5.5. So so at you know, at what point? So when we hit double digits, will that be the time for us to do it? I think with the model curriculum, it gives CSUs who are thinking about it a foundation, says, hey, this is something that's going to be coming in. But no, it's very much still on our radar. We're hoping not to have to leave it with just the model curriculum.
Yeah, Myron?
Yes. So what do we have to do as Deputy Secretary Navigator, as faculty at different colleges, to make this happen?
Well, I thought what I had to do is submit an application for a degree program, an AS degree, using the courses at Ohlone that kind of align with the descriptors. So that's what I did. I went through that process and it got approved. We're actually going to be offering it. We can do one more slide here. Yeah. So the course numbers are our unique course numbers. We use CNET, Computers, Networks, and Emerging Technology. That's our department name. It's not ITIS, which is what is on the descriptors. But I looked at our course outlines and mapped the courses to meet the major field. Remember the A+, we have an A+ class. We reduced it to a 4-unit class where some schools teach A+ is 2 3-unit courses. We still can get the same number of hours in that A+ course. So we do 6 hours. It's 3 hours of lecture, 3 hours of lab. That's 4 units. So that helps to reduce that requirement. Remember, to have a transfer model curriculum, you have to get down to 60 units total. And with 39 units of general ed, that leaves you with only 21 units in the core areas, right? So it's an issue. And then we have the elective courses, and those elective courses are just that. I think if your school, and this is what I think you should try to have done at every school, is to get the core courses offered, those 4 courses. And then pick and choose the electives that you have the talent for or the interest in or at your school to offer at least that as an elective.
Yes, speaking about the units of the class, I wonder if anybody else has been able to get the computer science program, because I studied the articulation officer and they list their course as 3-unit class. Our class or lecture lab, 4 units of work. You have to take calculus 2 semesters. It's impossible with lab. I'm wondering if anybody had any success in getting it.
Yeah, we did, Foothill College, and we ended up having to make a class, one of our core courses, be fewer units, so that we would just award fewer units to a student that took this particular class. And we have not offered that particular class yet.
It's one around 6 units over.
Well, you can create a course outline with so many instructional hours, but only you can give them additional hours of instruction, but not tie units to them. Because the way the rule works is they count the units, but if you go over, it's okay. You can go over if you want to. So you can make it a 3-unit class. I mean, you have to work with your faculty in terms of loading and things like that. But yeah. Yeah, DJ? Yeah. Yeah. And we can provide you this information. I've got Word documents for the template and has all this data. This is just my school, and we're unique. We're not going to be able to change the course department name and the course numbers. You don't have to for the model curriculum. You just have to meet the descriptors and have them align, which we do. So again, this took a while to get that approval for. I did make it under the wire, and students can actually begin applying. It's going to be in our official course catalog for the 2015-16 academic school year. So there's no place to transfer to. They get that AS degree. Quite frankly, I think there may be lacking in some of the technical specifics that they might need. We have other courses. We've got the whole series of Cisco courses that we offer. They're not part of this transfer, or this AS degree. But again, I think there's some flexibility in the elective courses. They just need to complete at least 2 courses from the electives, at least 2, maybe 3, and then the 4 core, and then the 1 math class.
stick around for the
Yeah.
second session for details as to how you might be able to expand upon that pre-local associate's degrees.
Exactly. Yeah.
Many very
Yeah, Ben.
college. Richard, in terms of your expectation of how many students are going to go to that AS degree, what is your expectation?
Well, it's only a small handful of students get. We've had AS degrees at Ohlone since 2000 in specific areas, system administration, networking. We only get maybe 10 or 12 students that get those degrees. You know that most of your students are coming back for retraining. They're working in industry. They're taking courses at night. Many of them don't even care about. Many of them have their degrees already. They don't really care so much about the certificates and degrees. But
the reason I'm asking this is because we have one old one in information technology. It's known not many people going to it. And for me to get in there and do the revision, I need to come in and say, okay, I'm going to take more students in here and start kind of fighting with the, more, let's say, professors that have been there for a very long time and they're not into the changing.
I think the timing is good to do it now. I think there's articulation with high schools. High schools they teach A+, they teach the CCNA courses at the high school or Net+. You can do articulations for that. We have a recognition of ICT as the sector. I mean, the timing is good for this, I think, and I think you can. And we have to get that interest to build the momentum required to move the CSUs into a position where they'll be able to accept our students.
I'm hearing from you that this is going to be a transitory type of program that can evolve into PNC.
Exactly. I mean, that was when I volunteered to serve on that FDRG, that was my goal. Right after spending so many years teaching and trying to make that happen, I thought maybe that would make a difference. And I think I still have confidence that it will.
And even the CSU members who were on the FDRG, interestingly, those weren't the obstacle. It's some of the higher folks. The CID process has a group called the ICW, I think it's called. It's a top final approving committee. Not too many technology folks on. It's a traditional type of thinking, and that's what we've been working against. And so I think to go back as your strategy, in order to make it more valid, take the existing degrees that you have, look at the core curriculum, because you'll find it applies to many of the different degrees that you have. And here's a chance to either consolidate into maybe one degree with multiple options, or take the existing degrees, give a common core to give students the flexibility to move back and forth, because again, those 4 courses specifically, those core courses have been validated nationally. And then, if students who change their minds, they have the ability to move left and right after that. So the number may be larger of potential completers than you think. And in the long run, yes, hopefully we can tell those folks when we get to that point. A better answer to the question, hey, I just got my networking degree, what do I do now? And I don't want to have to say the Bri and Phoenix and National. I want to be able to say Cal State Sacramento. I want to be able to say Cal State San Bernardino. That's what I want to say. So yes, it is hopefully temporary. It is temporary, but hopefully sooner rather than later it'll become that transfer model curriculum when it reaches that critical mass.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Markus from St. College.
Oh, yeah.
My experience with offering as a responsibility is not really good, because most of my students are planning to transfer. They have taken all the courses. If they, how should I spend additional time to complete the requirements? I can transfer. So even now at the UC or CSU, they don't really need whatever that you have here. with the courses they have, they transfer. So even if they only need 3 more courses, how should they stay for one additional?
Here's why they should probably say that, because what's going to happen, Tuan, is they're going to go to Cal State East Bay, and they're going to transfer, and they're going to get their degree, and then they're going to come back to Laney, or they're going to come back to Ohlone, because they can't get work because they don't have any skills. And they're going to take our courses to get certified in CCNA or Network Plus or Microsoft or something like that, because it happens.
Let me challenge that. If they have to come back, they come back with specific needs. Because they were looking for jobs, or they got laid off. Like with the economy, we know someday they're going to go back. Yeah. So as they work again, the students after 5, 6 years, they know that they need this specific series of coursework. So they're not coming for the basic, what are the things that we need here. So by then, the model that we have to, I don't know, think to accommodate that people with specific needs, kind of thing. But I'm looking back to the experience around, let's say, at the time that I'm associating with my students. Most of them are transferring. So if you want to modify this, the way that I'm looking at here, you are going with the industrial needs now. Because I look at all these things, you are going with security as the track.
As an option, yeah.
And then if you look at this, here I see one thing on the programming side, in C++.
Right.
In the other specifications, I remember somehow the hierarchy states you put in Java, and they don't care about C++. So somehow something is missing. I mean, I've been talking about languages. If you want to be specific, then you have to look at the needs of the industries. Are you sure that they don't need C++? Are you sure that they don't need Java? Are you sure that they don't need C? I mean,
no, some very good points. Yeah. What's nice about the model curriculum, and we are up against the clock now, is that there is that flexibility, right? Because as community colleges, one of our big missions is to meet that local need, and so that's why the model curriculum doesn't prescribe Java. It doesn't prescribe. So there is a fair amount of wiggle room within that model curriculum to be able to still meet the needs. And if it's okay, I'll finish with this. A lot of our students come and say that they want to transfer, but we all know a whole few of them actually do. So what you'll find here is, for the time being, a great tool for a foundation, then with the expansion to electives of building an associate's degree kind of set of knowledge, and then hopefully, or in the not too distant future, on a way for those students to be able to go up to that baccalaureate degree path. So it'll give the students who aren't going to go through the baccalaureate an opportunity to build some good skill sets and to become employable, and then later come back. And it'll also give the students who are looking to transfer an opportunity to do that in the long run. I think if we can, that's the intent, and if properly implemented, I think that's what we can do for our students. So I guess we can take one more question if that's okay. You're right.
I just want to add one thing to Tuan. In the Bay Area, we have 28 colleges, and the in-demand jobs are network support and also customer support, help desk. And there are jobs available. So as they're transferring, like your students, they can earn and learn anywhere from $28 an hour to $38 with that AS degree. So the model that you just saw for information technologies, it has a good flavor. It has a great mix with the first 4 classes, right? There was programming infused in there. There was forensics as an option, right? So employers would actually look at this and say, hey, there's a great mix there that, you know, as a student, we may consider them. You know, we can scrap possibly our networking and security and, you know, infuse this into it because you have a great mix of classes. Yep. And they can earn and learn and not go into so much debt when they get out.
Plus there's 39 units of general education where they're learning some of the soft skills that, you know, business is demanding too. You know,
the thing is we need to get business to see this.
Yeah, well, we've you know, with the help of our DSNs, we've been able to get that word out.
Yeah. I've seen people from industry, if their industry is paying for them to take the courses to get those certifications.
Right.
And it's really growing. I get emails every day now. They're asking from this company, from someone to take a class, they're sending them all these companies emails.
Lots of certifications built in. Stick around for part 2, and we'll have a little bit of hands-on there as well if you're interested as to how you might be able to do this for your own college, for the curriculum that you have. Thank you guys
Okay, thank you very much.
for coming.